thanks for everyone for joining here. I'm gonna be working on Retro Spaceball here. That's a working title. Still coming up with a better title. First off, I'm just gonna play the game a bit here and show you what I've been up to, and I'm gonna skip to the last level to show you the boss. Alright, so the boss is gonna be at the top of the level, so I'm gonna play through. And I did turn off the sound effects, and I didn't turn them back on, but there was an issue with they were sounding too often, so it was annoying to hear. Now this is the game music that I made for the game. It's just one track so far, so it just repeats, but it's about like 4.5 minutes long, maybe 5 minutes long. Right now I'm just progressing my way up through the level. Those rainbow colored bubbles, they bounce the ball, as you can see, and I get like 10 points each time. Get out of there. Ball got stuck. That's not good. So as you can see, there's still some bugs in here that need to be addressed. That would be one of them. So what I can do, since I'm playing it on the Unity editor here, I can just grab the ball and pull it up. Now if that were to happen while you're playing the game, on the web build or the on your phone, you would just need to restart the level, unfortunately. The goal is to minimize those bugs. I'm quite a long way away from that point though, since everything you're looking at is very alpha, is in the alpha stages of production, because it's a long process. It's a long and arduous process to make a game. So it might look somewhat finished, but that's just because I'm an artist and a programmer, so I can kind of work both angles at once. Usually you would be looking at something that looked more like a prototype at this point, but I want to make sure that I'm moving with the art as well, since I am the artist. Sometimes you wouldn't even hire an artist until you know for certain that the prototype is going to work, so. Alright, so here's the boss. Oh, there was the boss. I'm at the top. I just need to keep it up there now. And it's proven quite difficult, which, granted, a boss is supposed to be challenging, but this game is just completely challenging. I've been working my best to make it more playable and easy, and this is the last level, so to speak, of this version of the game. Okay, yeah. So it's taking damage now. It takes a while. Now I'm gonna have to put some particle systems and stuff in there, so you can actually get some feedback that you're hitting it all of those times. But since I programmed it, I do know that it's working, and I did test it the last stream. So, oh. So my plan was to animate some type of binding system essentially that would keep the ball into like this kind of zone, so it's easier to stay up. Alright, so as you can see, I've destroyed that one completely. It's a little bit dark, and that's something that I'm going to have to address with either building a background behind it or just lightening the sprite. It won't be difficult. It's something that I can do relatively easy. But it is something that would need to be done, so I'm just going to leave it the way it is for now. And we're going to aim at the other one now to try to see if the game reacts as it's supposed to after I've completed that. Granted, the turrets aren't going to shut off yet. They haven't been programmed to do that yet. They don't have their own bullets yet, and I'm still planning on making some more art because I want to make the center turret different than the outside turrets, just for aesthetic purposes. And maybe make the center turret shoot twice as often or something like that. Or maybe it'll have a bigger range than the other two. I really haven't gone into all of the details of what this first boss is going to be like when it's done, but so far it's doing what I want it to do, so that's great. And it is challenging, but I'm having fun as well. It's not extremely difficult. I can do it with one hand. That's awesome. I like minimal controls. You would want to use two hands on a mobile device, and there is some work that needs to be done on the mobile to make it. There's just a lot of work that needs to be done, but to make it extremely playable, we're gonna have to make a slider, and I've been researching it on the side, so I'll know what to do when we get to that point, but I'm not quite there today. Alright, get up there, get up there. After I finish this guy off, I'm thinking I'm gonna spend more time debugging the levels, because that's really important to me that the player doesn't get stuck, because as soon as the player gets stuck, they get frustrated and they no longer want to play the game. So even if they're having fun up until that point, they'll realize that all of their fun can be taken away just because something that was overlooked. And no gamer wants to find that. A tester, on the other hand, is aware that that's the end goal, is to find those. But it's still, the less the better. It looks like someone cared before it got to the testers. It makes everyone feel better. So I would say always do your own testing before you assign it to others. Of course, how much time do you have to test? That's completely dependent on the scope of the project and the deadlines and all of that stuff, the budget. This has $0 budget, so not spending any money on software. The computer, I mean, yeah, that costs money, obviously, but that's something that I was planning on having anyways, or something. It's something I can justify. It's my donation to the game. Well, actually, my mom's donation to the game, considering she paid for the computer. Super grateful of that, because I spent all my money paying rent, and unfortunately paying someone else's rent. But you live and you learn, and I feel like I'm living, and I feel like I'm learning. Come on, ball, get up in that little hole. Come on. So this is too difficult. As you can see, I shouldn't be spending 20 minutes playing the boss. Sorry, I just wanted to check the Twitch chat to make sure if anyone was talking, I wasn't forgetting about them. No one's talking, but that's alright. And I can see it's only been 10 minutes, not 20 minutes, but it feels like 20 minutes. So that's not a good thing. That means that it's less fun than it should be. It should feel like it's only been 5 minutes. But it's difficult. Every time I get up there, they just knock it right back down. So the first thing I'd like to do is to make, when you're as far as I am, and you've got one of them destroyed but not the other, I want to make it so one of the turrets definitely stops. And that'll be easy. A lot easier than this level. Holy cow. I'm like all the way down at the bottom again. I'm thinking if I put the other portal, the pickup thing, I think that'll be better if I put it up here. So that way you have a chance of getting some pickups while you're fighting the guy. Maybe every time he knocks you down you get a new pickup so you get back up easier. And then, like I said, making it so only 2 of them work when one of them's exploded. I'm trying to get it over there. It's just a lot more difficult than it looks. Go, go, go. Oh. Oh. So this boss is not in the version of the game that's online right now. So I mean that's the main reason why I'm doing all of this testing here, is so I can get it into that version, because there are some testers that are getting to the end of the game, so that's good. It's not easy to do. It seems easy when I do it because for a while, but if you've been watching my streams, you might even have noticed that I skip to the end, like I did today, because it's just a lot of work to play through to the end. Alright. And it's even more work when you play through and you realize, hey, there's something that needs to be changed at the end. It's so difficult. It's almost luck that you get it in there. Oh. Oh, look at that, it got in there. Twice. Yes. Alright, so it acted not how I wanted it to. It was supposed to explode like that one, and then let me through. But as you can see, nothing is perfect, and it is difficult. Alright, so there's no real point for this part of the level to be here. Oh, it's just kind of difficult. It doesn't help that those things are still shooting, when they definitely shouldn't be. Alright, but there's the end of the level over there, if I can just get there. There we go. And then this is the screen that it displays at the end. So if you hit the level 1 button, it starts the game over, and I can show off the game a little bit here. As you can see, the sound effects are back. It was just that one scene that I had turned them off on. So I'll play through a little bit of the game here before I get to work, just so I can see what other level bugs might be needed, and just kind of make a mental list here. So I like how fast it goes. I mean, it gets a little bit crazy, but it's nice. I mean, it gets exciting. When it darts, you know, your eyes dart with it. You don't know where it's gonna go, and it feels nice when it kills all the bad guys. When it's moving fast, it doesn't seem like it's gonna go down because it gets really bouncy. Now here at the end, there's a lot of bad guys, and it gets really crazy. Ooh, and I died. It's kind of cool that I died. Did not see that coming. So, I'm thinking still too many bad guys at the top. I started with like as many as I could like possibly get through, and it was crazy. But sometimes you gotta test it that way. I like to see things get crazy, because I mean, getting crazy is one way to put it. The real thing is that I'm learning the limitations of my creation. So likewise with the bullets, like there's a lot of them. But I've tested it, and it still works this way. I've also tested it with more, to the point where it doesn't really work. And you know, that's what made me come to the conclusions that have led us to where the bullets are now. And the bullets are pretty good. I'd say they're almost done. Really, the only thing they really need is to start blinking before they disappear. So I think that'll be relatively easy. I'll have to see what kind of impact it'll have on the game, of course, but it's a really easy thing to code. And if it has a horrible impact on the game, and I don't want to make the necessary adjustments to fit that, then we'll just go without it, because it's polish. And when it comes down to it, polish is nice, and it's great, and you want as much as you can, but with an indie game and a one-man team, sometimes you can't expect it to be perfectly polished. It's okay to forget that the bullets look better flashing. The system, or if I can't figure out how to optimize it in code or whatever, then so be it. But I have a feeling I'll be able to do it. Get up there. Oh, there we go. Go, go, go. No! Yeah. Cute. Go, go, go. So I like the music, but at the same time, like, after hearing it like 5 times in a row, it could use another song for sure. This level I haven't really done that much testing on. I mean, I have, it's just such a big level that it requires more testing than the other levels. And that's part of the testing in itself, is to see how the game and the player handle a larger level. And, you know, make sure everything still works and make sure that's still fun. Now, I do want it to funnel more towards the top. If you look over here in the scene view, you can see that the game is this level is very much a rectangle. I'm gonna die, aren't I? So it's very much a rectangle, and then the top, it just kind of has a wall. And there's a couple issues with that need to be fixed. For one, it's just outside the scoreboard when you're at the top, and you can't actually see the wall. The ball can hit the wall, but the player doesn't actually see it, so you don't you don't realize that it's there. It almost looks like a glitch that the ball is stopping. So this level might actually need the most work in that respect, since we need to funnel the top and make it so it's visible. And the reason that we need to funnel the top is because where's the ball? How weird. Oh, there it is. And I think that's an issue with the player that we might need to address also, probably just on larger levels. Which goes back to what I was saying when this level needs to be tested because it's larger. And I wanted to see what effect larger levels will have. Well, apparently the ball can go around the player's colliders that tell it to move up and down. So that way when you're on top of it, it doesn't move up and down. That's something that we can easily fix just by expanding the size of the colliders. With a narrow level, it's just the ball's not going to get there. There's like a crap load of the enemies in here. I think I've counted up to like 50 that I've killed before. Of course, I didn't finish the game. I died after that. Oh, just like that. Alright, well, as I stated earlier, this level is hard and it needs work, so it's a good, probably a good place to start even. Didn't come across a lot of bugs on the first level, so yeah, let's just start there. So we're going to find our scenes in our scene folder, and it was this one. Alright, so what we're gonna do is, mostly here in the scene view, we're gonna make the level taper towards the top. So one way to do that I do want it to be symmetrical for the most part, but not completely. So I'm just going to start moving these objects down because these ones don't really need to be symmetrical at all. Now I do want to make sure that I'm grabbing the whole object and not just a child. Like as you can see here, if I were to accidentally grab one of those objects, it would get moved from its parent object. So I'm going to make sure that I'm moving the parent. And I'm just moving everything down right now. We can space it out later. But I do want to make room for the funnel here. So I'm just going to kind of move everything down a bit. I'm going to do the same thing over here, just move the objects down. We've made a little bit of space here. I want to move these guys down. And here, as you can see, I just selected the child. I want to select the parent. Oh, and I've got some music lined up. This is Dining Ethics with Matt Grzywa on trumpet. And Dining Ethics is myself and Eric Olson. Very experimental electronica group. And here, Matt is playing his trumpet with a microphone through my guitar effects, actually. And he's never played with guitar effects at this point, so it's very experimental in that manner. And I think I might be reaching in a hand or two to turn some knobs and that type of thing for him. And then we've got Olson with some type of keyboard here. And eventually you'll hear me with my turntables. There I am. So I want it to be all the way down here. It's a little low. What we can do here is we can actually select this object and then I guess we need to know which one it is. Okay, so we'll select this object, frame this object, select this object, and move to view. And now it's at the exact same height. We could have just as easily copied and pasted, but now I can drag, and that's pretty easy. So now I've got the exact height on either side, and the rest of it I think I can just eyeball.
Screaming.
So now there's 4 on either side there, and that's just going to be the beginning for our funnel. And as you can see, it's heading towards the center. Now, that works for now, but I think I also want to use these guys. Now, every game object is going to add to the load time and all of that stuff, just slow down the game. So it might actually be useful to make the sprites all one here. And I totally stole that instead of duplicating. And then you know, make a few different colliders for it, but not one for every 4 blocks here. This is kind of a small block to be working with, to be making a funnel that's this large.
Sound its praises.
Although the sprites aren't that bad. The colliders would definitely build up, but the colliders would be the easiest thing to fix here. I'm just thinking about the best way to do it. And for now, honestly, I'm starting to think that this, just moving these things is going to be sufficient. And then later we can make it prettier. Functionality first, and then aesthetics. I mean, always have aesthetics in mind, but functionality is key, especially in this stage. Later on, I'll worry more about the aesthetics and that type of stuff. Like I said, if I was only a programmer at this point, I probably wouldn't even hire an artist, except for maybe just some concepts and stuff like that, so I have a better idea of what it might look like. But as a programmer, you have to be creative. You have to be able to see things that aren't there, and you have to, you know, in many ways, be just as creative as the artist, because really that's all the artist is doing. He's just capable of then rendering it into the game, but everyone should be seeing it before it's there. It might not look as pretty in the programmer's eyes, but that shouldn't matter to a programmer. I mean, obviously the end product is going to matter no matter what, but as far as like the process goes, the programmer's got to see something that's not there. It doesn't matter if it's pretty. You gotta use your imagination, even if you're just crunching numbers or writing characters. Alright, so I'd like it to be at this angle, with these little jaggies there. So I'm just going to bring it down and over a bit, and create that pattern here. Oh, you know what, I just messed up. It's important to grab the whole object. So now it's following like a uniform funnel, and eventually I can have it kind of curve up right at the end. But this is getting the horizontal distance that I'm looking for. So at this point, since I'm pretty much running out of objects that I've already made, I'm going to start duplicating them to make more, but I need to make more space here.
Way out trances.
Undulating to atonal music while experiencing way out trances. Undulating to atonal music while experiencing undulating.
So at this point I think I can start going straight up, or more vertically than horizontally at least. Although it would be nice to have it end maybe like, you know, so it looks nice. Yeah, something like that. That'll do. Alright, so I'm gonna continue that. We'll just move these game objects. If you're just tuning in, one of the bugs that I found in this level was that the players were having too much trouble with how much horizontal space there is, and couldn't find the end goal once they got to the top. They would find themselves searching for it along these big expanses and dying before even finding it. So I'm going to fix that by providing this nice funnel. I sure miss these old jams. I used to have people over at my place all the time, and we would just make psychedelic, experimental, electronic music. And I used to live out in the middle of the woods, so it was hard to get people over, because I was about 15 minutes away from the nearest town. But it was always worthwhile when I did get people to come over, because we could stay up all night long and be as loud as we wanted. And the cops would only come if we were outside being loud, so. It's 15 minutes from town, about 50 minutes from the city. About 50 minutes from Chicago, about 15 minutes from the nearest population, over 15,000 or something like that. I was actually in a really small township, which was next to a really small town that was more like a village. So if I needed like a burrito, then I could go like 10 minutes to get a burrito. But if I wanted to go like a real restaurant, then I'd have to go like at least 15 minutes to find something that was decent. Or if I wanted to find like a decent restaurant, you know, like a really nice restaurant. If I wanted to take a girl out on a date, then I'd have to drive at least 30 minutes. For sure. But, you know, it had its perks because it was out there, man. It was out in the middle of nowhere. Just cornfields, and I lived on a lake. That was cool. It was a cottage. It was my grandparents and my dad and his brothers built it. Oh, it sucked for work. It was terrible. I worked at a pizza place, delivering pizzas like three or four towns, 5 towns away. Just drive around in the country all day. You know, during the winter it sucked because people's cars would like get stuck and stuff. I was lucky. I never had my car stuck, but yeah. I don't know. Like I said, it's got its perks, but working is not one of them. Not to mention, internet was bad. I was basically without the internet, so here I am, completely behind on social media type stuff. Unfortunately, this is my work right now. I'm waiting to hear back from a job. This big company has this confidential thing that they're working on, that they're hiring a bunch of people for, and I'm waiting to hear back from them. I just emailed them about it again because I'm waiting to hear about the results for this 3-hour test. I learned Maya in a matter of like 6 hours, and then took a 3-hour test on it, and it's Apple, so I mean they're looking for the job requires that I have experience in games, but it wouldn't be making a game. It would be making an application. I just can't really talk about the application because it's Apple. Everything's secret at Apple, even though it's not really important. They just don't want Google to know. But yeah, I would be moving to California if I get that job. Right now I'm in Phoenix, and I had a couple jobs here. I've been here for just a little bit over a year, maybe a couple months over a year, 3 months over a year, and I love it here. It's great. There is work. I'm reluctant to work at another call center, for one, because I fucking hated call centers. The job after that I had was at a custom framing shop, which it seemed like it was going great. Everyone was being really nice and stuff, and then all of a sudden, after about 2 months, they're like, we feel like you've been doing a bad job, and we're going to fire you. And we can do that because you're on a probationary period. And it's like, wait a second, what didn't you like about what I was doing here? And then they came up with this list of just nonsense. like, they were saying that I wasn't on time. I was early every day for that job, you know. I think they didn't like me for whatever reason, and they were afraid to say it to my face, and it wasn't a good enough reason to fire me, so they made up reasons. And it was kind of hurtful because the way they went about it, you know, they were like, "We think you've been stealing." Like, I've never stolen anything in my life. And then the thing they thought I was stealing was razor blades, something that I can afford even on my artist salary. And then they think that I'm stealing razor blades simply because I use razor blades in my art. I'm sorry, I've been using razor blades far before I started framing. Just, you know, some people, the thing was is that I had dreadlocks. And I still do. I'm cutting them out. I'm not cutting them, I'm combing them out. And it's a long process. I started in November, basically, when I lost my job. Because I was like, well, obviously they don't like me because I have dreadlocks. But, you know, they hired me when I had dreadlocks, and I guess they changed their mind about how important dreadlocks are to not have. What are you gonna do? I use the V shortcut, but when you got all these colliders and stuff, like, the V shortcut doesn't do shit for you here. You know what I mean? So you just kind of have to work with what you're working with. And right now, I'm just trying to have something that's done, not trying to have it look perfect either. The V shortcut for vertex, right? So if I select the vertex, like, where am I snapping it to? I'm only snapping it to other vertexes, right? But I'm not trying to put it there. I'm trying to put it like right or where it was. Yeah, you know what I mean. It works great for stuff like this, you know, because everything's boxed in. But these are not. These objects are just. They're not even very good objects. Yeah. Explain what you mean, the V without the snap. So I've got my objects, and I hold, or I, you know, want to hold V, and then it grabs, and then go for the arrow. So then, but what's the point of holding V then if you're using the arrow? Because I don't know. I find purposes for the V key all the time, but as far as for certain game objects, it doesn't want to work for me. Instead of going from the center of the object, you can zoom in really intense and be precise. Oh, I see what you're saying. So if you hold down the V and wait. Oh wow, okay, so it can move the arrow, so that way you're not always grabbing from the center. I see, that's a great point. I never noticed that before. I always have that trouble where it's like, you have to select it from here to view it, and then you zoom in and then you can't see the arrows. I totally understand what you mean. Thanks for that. I very much appreciate that. Yeah, I'm still learning when it comes to Unity, in many respects. What did I do wrong here? This one needs to go up. Like I said before, I'm not too worried about how this looks. I'm just going for functionality here, and then I'm actually thinking something completely different for the art. And I actually do want to get rid of these tiles eventually. All right, so it's not symmetrical. It's pretty close. but I'm just gonna leave it. And I'm going to I'm gonna move these guys around just so the player could actually fit through here. Yeah, the issue that I was having was that players were not able to find the exit on this level. And it was an experimental level because most of the levels are vertical. Here, I can show you. If I go to, this was the original scene, the prototype scene, and you can see it's super narrow and it's all vertical, and there's really not that much to it. But then when I made this one, I wanted to see what it would be like moving around, and then I even made another one in this tutorial level where it's like a zigzag, just kind of experimenting with what it might be like to move not just vertically but also horizontally, and I like it. I think it's working. As far as the player not being confused, we'll have to see about that, but I think if I do it the right way and just kind of like, here's a little bit of left and right, here's a little bit of vertical, they might catch on early enough, and then be like, earlier levels have some horizontal so that way you don't die easily, because if you hit the bottom you die, whereas the vertical levels like would be a little bit more challenging because if the ball goes down you die. So but yeah, right now everything's so jumbled here in the center because I just made all this room here that it's completely unplayable. So that's the goal here. And really, these game objects here that I just clicked on, they're kind of pointless. It's just for another obstacle. But when you hit them, they animate and switch between two different states. So eventually I think I'm going to use that to make an actual switch that will like change the level or animate the level, that type of thing. Right now everything's pretty static. Like even the bad guys, I've coded them to move, but I haven't made one move yet. But they are coded to move. I just need to make a couple adjustments and they would start moving. Which might be confusing. I lost what I was talking about when you might have written that. But I mean, yeah, I am trying to avoid confusion for sure, because you know how players today are. They tend to seek out confusion. I'm getting spammed. I don't know what you mean. Am I getting spammed? Oh, on Discord? Sorry, someone's talking to me. Nothing wrong with that. I love networking. This level is spam. That's what I thought you were talking about. I'm like, yeah, this is pretty spammy. It's gonna play like crap. Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. That is confusing, but it looks pleasing. Yeah, that's the main reason why I wouldn't actually use them in the finished product, the final product. But for now it works because that's actually the only level block that I made that I like of that shape so far. But you're right, yeah. In fact, I could just turn the animator off, and that would probably do the trick. But yeah, I mean, it's a prefab, so if I did that, all of them would change, which would be fine, because there are no switches set up yet. But a lot of that was testing the limitations, because this is the first two-dimensional game that I've made. And this is the first game that I've made all by myself as well. So, and of course it's far from completed, but it is playable, and there's a version of it on itch, and I've been getting tons of feedback on it, which is great. This is way too jumbled over here. At some point it might be a good idea to delete some of these game objects. My stream key's getting cut? Yeah, it looks like, yeah, it went down to like 800 kilobytes. So maybe if I increase the bit rate on my OBS. Oh, and the chat is behind the webcam. Huh. Alright, let me fix that. Let's see here. I don't know if that'll fix it. And then I can move this.
Instead, maintain a calm, relaxed awareness, keeping your body.
Well, that'll fix the chat at least. I don't know if it'll keep cutting the stream. I increased the bitrate. I can see that it's moving up. I gave it about 1,000 more, so hopefully if it hits drops, then it will only be around 2,000 or so. I had trouble with doing higher bitrate because it would have trouble the other way. It would be too much for it to process. Finding a happy medium. But thank you, I appreciate that. And it looks like it's dropping again, so don't know if that's gonna fix it. It looked healthy for a minute. But no, I don't think it's you. I think it's me. Oh yeah, I'm using OBS, online broadcast software. It's it looks like this. Settings are pretty intuitive. You can't play with the video while it's active, but you know. Here's the bitrate. You can adjust it while it's streaming, which is cool.
That you may feel towards anyone, because this will prevent letting go and tend to produce a negative experience. Instead, meditate on love and trust toward everyone, especially your traveling companions on this cosmic journey. Eliminate doubt and suspicious skepticism.
A negative attitude will hold you back. Instead, let's have we no hope for the other potential national system. This is surrounding us. Try to make him out.
It's either I'm not sure exactly what the problem is. It's either my CPU or Twitch's like network, their server. It's probably not OBS, except for the fact that it is causing my CPU to spike. So, I mean, my computer's new, but it's not brand new. I mean, like it's new-ish. It's better than what I had before, but it's definitely not top of the line. So, I mean, and also it could be my internet as well. I do pay for high-speed internet, but it's really not that fast, and it has issues from time to time, just like anything else. But yeah, I mean, I apologize for it cutting out on you. I wish it was more reliable. Oh no, it's definitely not your computer, man. So this looks a little bit more playable. Everything's at least easy or more evenly spaced out. I'm gonna give it a go. Oh, and I died already. So, what type of computer did you get there? Is it a, well, you say it's a PC, so I assume it's not a Mac. I'm using a tower. It's a Dell. I really don't know all that much about it. It's got 16 gigs of RAM. It's got a processor. I don't know what type of processor. It's not extremely new. I used to run a desktop. I mean, I'm sorry, a laptop that was pretty decent. But I had this. Well, my ex-girlfriend's cat. One of them. She had like 3 cats at the time. One of them decided that you know, laptops are great for sitting on. Oh, you built the tower. That's pretty awesome. You used to have a laptop, now you're on tower. Yeah, you know, honestly, I like the towers, but I'm always at my desk here. I'm like always here. I have a chair. Chair doesn't really go too far, and I prefer to sit in the chair. If I don't have the chair, my back starts hurting. You know, I gotta stretch more. Don't get as much done. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's great having a laptop to be like, oh, I want to go to my friend's house and show him my game. Perfect for that. You had help building it? That's awesome. Yeah, I would need help too. I mean, I love computers and I know quite a bit about them, but I wouldn't know how to get the best prices or what works with what's the standard, and what's going to be needing replaced right away, and what's going to last for 4 years, what's going to last for 2 years. You know, I don't know all that stuff. I got a buddy who does, but all my friends are in Illinois because that's where I moved from, and I'm in Arizona now. And you're from Montreal, right? It's got to be super cold there. Or is it Quebec? I don't know, it's got to be super cold all over Canada. Part of it was because I wanted to get out of the snow. Quebec and Montreal. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know that much about Canadian geography, unfortunately. I think it's cool though. I mean, I went to Niagara Falls when I was a kid. Obviously, that's not the same as Montreal. You like the cold, so you don't mind. Yeah, see, I hated the snow, and you know, like when I was living out in the country there, we had almost a quarter. It was like a fifth of a mile. So yeah, I don't know how many kilometers that is, but it was long. It was a long gravel driveway, and I had to plow that shit, and that sucked. I didn't have money to afford a snow plow or whatever. My dad had like one of those snow blowers, but it worked like shit on the gravel. But yeah, I mean they're dealing with like fucking negative 15-degree temperatures in Illinois. Like, I don't want to deal with that. I got my windows open. I'm wearing shorts. I go outside barefoot right now if I wanted to. There's a pool outside that could totally be used. Right, so I hit that same glitch that I hit before, so it's a good time to fix that. Oh, there's the ball. Okay, so that's a new glitch. Somehow the ball wedged itself up in that shit. So that's bad news right there. My sound on my stream is cut? Or it doesn't look like it's cut here. It doesn't look like it's cut on my my sound on my stream is cut. Yeah, it sounds like it's working. Are you not hearing anything? And can you hear me now? Like one of those commercials. Oh, they put an ad and it bugged. Yeah, those ads are bullshit. Yeah, well, that'll happen. So these things are like too far apart, I think, or something, because now my shit's bugging. It's a good time to save whenever it's fucking freaking out like that. The hell? Yeah, this is acting strange. I'm gonna reload the software here. It looks like my my bitrate's doing better though, so that's good. Alright, so now it's working properly. It was weird that it did that. So if the ball's able to fit in these, that's just really not good. But yeah, I can see why that would happen now. They're not really that close to each other. And that's another reason why these objects are just really not going to work, because they need to be like right on top of each other to do what I'm trying to do here. That's disappointing. You know, honestly, I feel like I should just get rid of that and start over. So I'm gonna do a little experiment here. I'm just gonna see how many of these I would need. So I'm just gonna duplicate a whole bunch, and I will use the V here. The big squares? Maybe, I don't know. Not really. Nah, they're not. No, I never prefabbed them. Honestly, I knew that I wasn't going to be using them for very long. They were just kind of a test. You know, seeing, because this is a game that heavily relies on diagonals, and that's, you know, you really shouldn't rotate your sprites. But instead of having these jaggies at the end, it should look something more like this, where it's flat at the end, and it's built to, you know, fit the pixel art and the diagonals. But yeah, essentially everything is a placeholder right now. This is still really early in development. I'm only 2 months in, and it's all by myself. So, I mean, maybe if there was like a team, then you could say like, oh, 2 months, you get a lot done. But when it's just me by myself, yeah, I really haven't actually got that much done. Everything is still very much a placeholder. Everything from this drawing up here, the animations, even the ball, I'm not super set on the ball yet either, and the ship even, I'm not super set on that either. I mean, all that stuff is needed to make the game, but right now the placeholders look good enough to get it through. And I've actually got a couple other ships that I've designed, I just haven't tried to implement them yet. But yeah, you know, when you're an artist, your placeholders look a lot more like the regular, like the finished product, and it's confusing to some people that aren't artists, because they just assume that everything that's a placeholder should look like, you know, programmer art. But if you're an artist and a programmer, you know, why not do both? And you know, it's give and take. Even as an artist, you don't want to spend a crap load of time on a piece of art just because you're an artist. You got to make sure that it's versatile, that it's dynamic, that you're gonna actually use it, and all of that stuff before you really spend hours making it look beautiful. Because if you spend hours on something and you don't actually use it in the game, you know, it's like, it sucks. Who wants to do that? So you make something that's close, and if it does work and it's dynamic enough and it does everything that you want it to, then you spend a few more hours on it, and then you're good. So here I'm going to count these things. This is going to be a pain in the butt. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38. So if I make one that's 38 tall, I can actually just like make that the sprite, and then use one collider and make a staggering, like a stairway of those, and that would look much better than this and be probably easier than trying to lay all that out. So did I say 28 or 38? Oh, you got another ad. Wow, that sucks, man. Are you You know, I haven't seen an ad since I started streaming. And I don't know why that is. Well, that actually brings a decent point to the table, though, that the player can't see behind the squares anyways. So what I could actually do is just, you know, build it as it is. And just, you know, delete these. Oh, you know what? I'm doing it wrong. Alright. Need to delete the whole frickin' parent. I'm just gonna delete this. So I could actually just do this, and the ball won't be able to get through, and you really won't be able to see the other side because the player can't get there. Well, I don't want to delete everything. That's because I want these bottom ones. I just want to delete the ones that I'm looking for. Because the fact that they're diagonal is still very useful to me, and I don't want to blow these ones up because that'll just look ugly. But this is actually going to serve my purposes pretty well here. Of course, this is the other trouble that I was having with the V key, because I have my colliders set up like that. It tends to snap to the colliders rather than the sprites. Then you end up with this like stairway effect going, and all of a sudden, you know, the ball is not being affected by it anymore. So I'm gonna fix that here. There it is. I was looking for that one, like, where the heck is it?
We have a very good relationship. We don't love each other, but that's okay. Love each other, but that's okay. Love each other, but that's okay. Love each other, but that's okay.
Alright, so there's the issue. Oh, but I want it to be up one. Yeah, the V key can get kind of weird on you. So it's... Oh yeah, totally. I never use 2D. Being a 3D artist, it's just... It makes so much more sense to use 3D. Although, certain things like snapping and stuff like that, yeah, it would probably make it easier if you didn't have depth to deal with, but if I do want to use depth, then I have it. I just find the 2D to be so limiting. I'm not quite sure how to use the layers, to be honest. I never like taught myself that, and it just didn't seem that important. If you want to give me a rundown on what the layers do or why you would use them, like, totally. But yeah, I just simply am unaware of the proper usage of layers. It's up here.
Is this trip necessary?
Yeah, not really sure why. So
I became part of the water.
if I added a layer and called it, what would I want to call it? Like, what's something that you would keep on a separate layer than everything else? Because right now it makes sense that everything in the game is together, but I don't know, like, it's new to me. So yeah, I got the defaults for sure. I understand what they mean, and I can see why you would want the UI or what, you know, ignoring raycast on separate layers. But then, so when I how do you select a layer then? And when you select a layer, the environment would be a layer. Okay, so let's make a level, or alright, so if all of these core obstacles are you know, well, since it's a prefab, I can put that on the layer, right? And it should do it to all of them. So we'll do level obstacle. We'll just call them obstacle. Alright, so we've got our obstacle layer, and hey, where'd it go? Did I lose it? And then we have to select it. Okay. Yeah, we'll do the children too. And then if we apply it, okay, so now they're all on the obstacle layer. So if I want to access everything on the obstacle layer, how do I do that?
What you're hearing now is the hysterical laughter of a young man shaken by a wild hallucination.
So I've got them on a layer. They're all labeled as separate layers. But then if I say I wanted to select all of them, okay, that'll work. Oh, all the way up there. That's a little bit confusing. I see, I see. So you can't hide everything though. That's pretty cool. And then lock it. So if I can't select it then, I could see that being useful for sure. Thanks, I appreciate that. That's really awesome that you can explain that to me. I really do appreciate it. But yeah, I'm not sure how much I'm going to use it right off the bat, but I'm sure I'll start implementing it the more I play around with it. And it's one of those things that I've been meaning to learn, and just never got around to it, as well as static. But I recently just learned what static is, and I learned that anything that's not moving should be static. And I've never really done that before. So as far as optimizing goes, like everything that I've done has not been optimized in the sense that static was not turned on any of the game objects. Set 2 tags. Diff. I'm not quite sure what you mean about the tags. Now tags to me are I end up using a crap load of them. So it'd be nice to know as much as I can about tags and the proper usage. I find myself needing a new tag for pretty much every collision, because I use that, what is it? If tag is equal to for my collider scripts, and there's probably a better way to do it. I think you can actually just say like other collider, but then any collider would cause it to happen, or would run the script or whatever, so it's important to tag it, I guess. But I don't know, I've just been doing it for so long now that it's like I don't even think of twice about it. I just add another tag. But I was doing one game that had a really large scope, and the tag list just got outrageous, and making a new tag was like the biggest pain in the ass, because you had to scroll through all of the old tags before you could get to your new tag, and it's like every time you tagged it, you had to do that. And nav mesh is another thing that I'm still learning. There was the one game that I did with a programmer from Egypt. He did all the nav mesh stuff, and I have access to the files and stuff, so I can still learn it. But I haven't actually implemented a navigation mesh in my own projects. I've done it a little bit as like a tutorial type stuff, but nothing nothing done. And that's like a new thing from Unity 4.6 or something or something. I actually started with Unity 3. Oh, so you can use layers as you would tags? Is that what you're saying? So, say I had a whole bunch of different types of enemies, and they were all going to be in contact with the player object. And on the player object, I've got a collider that says, you know, if the other tag's an enemy, then it hurts it. But say I need to tag them as different enemies or something like that. Okay, cool. Yeah, right on. That makes sense. So that way you would only need to code it once for all of the enemies, or all the enemies that do the same amount of damage or whatever in that situation. Like, you could make an array that would find all the objects that are in your layer, obstacles, and on start, just tell them to be put as the same Z as the player. So you have to do what you're doing on all your levels. You make an array. See, and now arrays are something that I can do if I'm under like direct tutorial, basically. I don't think I really have any arrays in this project right now. Let me take a look at my scripts here, and my most advanced script is my object pooler, which really isn't that advanced, except that it does more than one object, which is nice. Right. So I can show you about the extent of what I can do coding, and this is buggy as well. So you make a private game object array that would work at the start. So this is not the script I was looking for. I'm looking for. Oh, it is the script. Okay, so it's my gun controller that is rough. And so this is just isn't even an array, this is a loop. Oh, and there's a list. So this is like the first time I've ever used a list. Well, I mean, I appreciate the help, but I feel like it might be kind of hard to be guided through like through the stream. I'd almost rather just learn at my own pace online and try to figure it out. But I think I understand what you're talking about making an array that stores the game objects, and then at the start of the screen it puts them all at the z-axis that the player's on, rather than having to align everything by hand like I'm doing. I mean, I totally appreciate the help, man. I absolutely appreciate the help. But as far as scripting goes, I don't want to look like a fool being slow, and I also don't want to make this DevStream just about me not knowing how to script as well as I should. So far, when I come across an issue, I tend to try my best to learn it and just figure it out as I go. But I mean, I totally see what you're saying. You could do the same thing just by making a script on each of the objects, and at the start it makes sure that it stays on the that axis. But being the visual person that I am, I'm probably gonna want to just set it up visually. That's just how I think and feel. But I totally see what you're saying. I mean, I kind of wish that I thought more like that, but to me it's like if I don't see it, then it's like, I don't know. But I very much appreciate the author, or the offer, because I do need as much help as I can get, for sure. I'm still a noob when it comes to programming. I don't have any formal training in it. When I was in like grade school, I started learning a little bit. And then in high school I started doing a little bit of Flash, and then in college I started learning more about action scripts and HTML. And then after college, that's when I finally started teaching myself different coding languages that actually are used to make games. I definitely appreciate the shortcut, and it's something that I'm probably going to implement into my games in the future. But for now, it's like I'm already doing it this way, and yeah, it would make things quicker for me in the future, but it'd slow me down right now, and I'm not trying to be slowed down, so to speak, right now. I'd rather have a slowing effect as a whole, rather than just be like, I'm gonna beat this code over my head, because that's what it would feel like for me. I'm really slow when it comes to learning code, and I mean I totally appreciate your attitude of trying to teach me, because that would be great. But I also feel like it would be frustrating for you probably more than it is for me, because I'm not a code thinker. I'm definitely a visual thinker. In fact, to get this far was very much a struggle. Right, exactly, yeah. It would be faster if it worked properly and it worked for me right away, but I know that it wouldn't. For me, it would take me a whole day to learn. And I mean, yeah, that after that day, everything would be smooth and quick. But yeah, being consistent's huge. And then also, I don't want to frustrate you, and I don't want you to think any less of me because I'm a crappy coder. And that's really the truth. I'm really not a good coder. I don't claim to be either. I don't really ever use best practices, and I probably should. And I should be more concerned with that type of stuff. But my main concern is just making the game, doing whatever it takes to get there. And eventually, it will take exactly what you're talking about, and I will get there eventually. And even just you describing it like that is helping a ton, because my brain's gonna process that information, and you know, a week from now, maybe even tomorrow, I'll wake up and be like, you know, I really do want to implement what he told me, and I'll have already worked out a good way of doing it. You know, something that suits my nature, as well as you know, can speed up the process. But right now, I'm not. I mean, it's not going terribly fast, but I don't feel like it's going terribly slow either. Oh, and I was gonna throw on some more music. I've got these headphones on, just chilling. Let's see here. This is all really old stuff, as you can see, 2011 and prior. Some of them are even separated. Let's see what this is.
The drug might be effective in the treatment of certain mental disorders, that it might help us understand the creative process. And
if it sounds like it's low volume, it is.
Today, scientific research with LSD is declining. 5 years ago, the second period began. The idyllic, psychedelic, evangelical. This was a movement spawned at Harvard by Dr. Larry Alpert, later to infiltrate many a campus and offbeat group.
Listening to some 50s. You mean like 50s music? Is that what you're trying to say? Like oldies?
Later, to infiltrate many a campus in all three groups, the psychedelic persuader, the psychedelic persuaders,
oh, right on, cool. Actually, the other musician in this group that I'm listening to, the other musician besides me, he actually was in a 50s cover band for a bit, and he played the upright bass and had like a pompadour and did that whole thing. They were doing good too. They were actually making like three or four grand each show, and I think there was only 4 members in the band, so that's like $1,000 per member for like a couple hours set. So I mean that's when you know you're doing good as a musician, because that is not easy to do. But they would end up playing like car shows and like, you know, parking lots outside of 50s diners and stuff like that if there was like some type of festival or something. Hey, what's going on here? But he liked the band, but this, I guess the band leader wasn't like nicest guy, and I guess him and his wife split, and his wife was the band manager, and like things just fell apart. And that's pretty common with bands. And also, as fun as the 50s music can be, like when you're playing it every day, it can get pretty boring. And the songs that people want to hear aren't typically the best songs from the era. It's more or less just the popular songs from the era, and let's face it, the popular songs aren't always the best songs. That's just, you know, what's popular makes money, and what's technically talented is usually pushed aside.
Its highlights have been compressed on this really breakdown. Its highlights have been compressed on this really breakdown.
Yeah, totally. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like hearing those pop songs, the ones that were very popular during the 50s, like, from time to time. But, you know, like, how many times do you really need to hear, like, gone to the chapel and we're gonna get married? I mean, it's funny on occasion, but it's not something you want to, you know, play every show.
Its highlights have been compressed on this really breakdown. Its highlights have been compressed on this really.
I'm going really slow here. Let me speed this up. Oh, 70s. Right on. 70s are much better than the 50s. Yeah. Led Zeppelin, Blue Oyster Cult. Yeah, I'm a much bigger fan of the 70s than the 50s. But I mean, there still are some great songs from the 60s. I mean, from the 50s. And the 60s as well. You're listening to American music, though, I take it? Or is that wrong to assume? Because I really don't know what French-Canadian music from the 70s sounds like.
Closes the door. He sits alone on the wooden floor.
Visible only by the dim light shining from the bathroom. He talks to himself.
Yeah. That's cool. I mean, I'm always interested in other types of music besides American. So to me, it's a little bit frustrating that the whole world listens to American music. But there was some really great American music back in the day. There still is some today. Just it's all way oversaturated. It's extremely difficult to find like new music that's appealing. For me, at least. I don't know. I get kind of cynical when it comes to that stuff. Being a musician myself. So that takes care of my funnel issue, and it actually looks way better this way too. So we'll see if it works. Oh, I'm gonna die. Oh. But yeah, as far as the ads go on Twitch, I need to learn more about them, because I remember the first time I like signed up to view someone's stream, I was getting barraged with ads too, and then I haven't seen one since. Like, I don't know if it's because I'm a streamer and I stream now, but when I watch other people's streams, I don't get stuck with ads. So I'm gonna want to learn more about that, because I'm pretty fond of Twitch, but wow, that made the levels so much easier. Let me try that again. Which one was it? This one?
They're your best educated, your most creative, your most courageous young people. And like it or not, they're going to build you a new civilization. Build a new civilization. Build a new civilization. A new civilization.
There's no doubt that many young.
I'm actually, now that I said something, I'm actually really interested to hear what French Canadian music sounds like, because I'm sure that they have their own variety of music. And I also, you think it's okay? That's funny. Well, I mean, at least it's okay. I can't say that about, you know, I can't say that about current American music. I'd say most of it's crap. But I also heard that Montreal's got its own like art scene going on, which is cool. I've seen some of the graffiti artwork, the street art, and it looks great. I gotta say, lots of colors. You know, so the subject matter is like animals and stuff like that. I think that's great. I'm a big fan of the street art. Yeah, man. Take care. You gotta take care of your girlfriend first. Absolutely, man. Thanks for joining me on the stream, and have a great day, dude. And I'll see you around. Peace. So I am happy with this level, the way that I just did that. Yeah, it was a little time consuming, and absolutely right. It would have been faster to do it the other way if I knew how to do it that way and was more prepared to do it that way. And maybe in the future, that's going to be how I get the levels done. But I think that worked pretty well. And the level's still difficult. I was just all the way up there, and I was trying to get in the goal. I really should too, because I've got 0 shield left. Oh, the ball killed me. Alright, well, that's pretty cool. I think I'm gonna take a break here. I've got to do some errands and stuff, laundry, just about out of fruits and vegetables. Still got some meat left, so it won't be an expensive grocery trip like the last time, but gotta keep up with that fresh fruit stuff. And laundry, totally. Go, go, go. Alright, so that's cool. Alright, thanks everyone for joining. I'm gonna take off and take care of those errands, and I might be back on later. If I do, it'll probably be around 8 o'clock or so. That's Arizona time, so it's 4 o'clock now. In about 4 hours or so, I will be back on either making this game or playing a game. I haven't played a game in a couple days, so I might play a game. I'm really not sure at this point. This game needs a lot of work, but gotta blow off steam too. So thanks for joining, and take care. Peace.